Okay, so today we have our good friend Wade. Welcome, Wade. I know this is your first podcast, but I find you such a fascinating, interesting, inspiring person, and it's been such a pleasure to get to know you and call you a friend. You did move to New York 5 years ago. You came from a smaller town.
Yeah.
And you are now in investing. You're an entrepreneur. You have so many things under your belt, but kind of similar to us, moving to New York, how was that transition for you and why did you make the leap?
Well, first off, thank you both for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I love you both. So yes, I grew up right outside of the city in a town called Ridgewood, New Jersey. It's a very popular town for people who are, whose parents are commuting to the city, and it's a very suburban, kind of classic, like almost like movie-esque little town. I have always been kind of attracted to the hustle and bustle of the city. I knew I wanted to do things that are kind of buzzier and sexier and meet new people and kind of dive right in. So as I was wrapping up college, there was kind of no question for me. It's also, New York has always been like, a stone's throw away. So I have a lot of friends and family who are here, and it's kind of my safe space. And like, it's venturing off to another place wasn't even a question for me. And it was definitely, it was a hard transition. I had a hard time kind of maturing, I think, through college, through high school. I actually did a gap year between high school and college because I was just felt inept, and I felt like I was unable to go be independent. So I actually did a year abroad where I spent, a year living with, first 6 months with an Aboriginal tribe in Australia.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Living in the outback, which I think I've never mentioned before, but
yeah,
I did. I know. It's a funny curveball. It kind of just came back to me as I was thinking about how hard it was for me to have the self-confidence and maturity level to come to the city. So I did that, and then I did another 6 months in the Pontiac of Canada with a Native American family doing sled dogs and whatnot. But wow. It's a crazy experience. But the gist of all that was just more, I wanted to kind of, I felt like just a knucklehead kid still. I was kind of a shithead as a teenager. Yeah. And, but coming here was hard, I think. I think it was hard for me. I'm very close to my parents. It was hard for me to be here alone, but as I've kind of acclimated and made more friends and met, amazing people like you guys, and kind of dove right in, and now I feel very entrenched. Now it's kind of the other side of things where I feel like I'm almost too deep into New York and being here, and it's great, but it was hard.
Yeah,
I think.
Yes, we can all agree to that.
Do you feel like that gap year really helped kind of build the independence?
I think yes. And
first of all, good for you for going and doing that. Not that many people would do that. I find that extremely impressive.
Yeah,
I think it did. I think I was so lost. I had an identity crisis, and I was just being such like a punk, and I didn't appreciate my parents who gave me, they gave me this amazing life, and they're so loving, and there was nothing I could complain about home life. But I almost was like manufacturing my own angst. There was no need for me to be this kind of angsty and immature and rebellious. And I was getting all these tattoos, and I was being, I don't know. It was just, I did that, and I came back, and after you don't have a shower or a toilet or a mom for a year solid, a straight year. You have no phone, you have no contact with anyone you know or love. And I came back, and I was just like, holy shit, I love my parents, and my home is great, and this is all great. And then I went to college, and it was like a breeze. There are people who are coming from just their hometown, and they were kind of lost there, but I felt like I was like, this is nothing. Like I was like, I have to navigate fraternity parties, and
puts things in perspective. Yeah, right?
Studying. I was done. I can do that. I was sleeping outside for with rattlesnakes crawling over me for a year.
I did a gap year after high school, before college, and my parents. I went with my dad to India, and I feel like he was almost doing the same thing without me realizing it. But he was taking me on a worldly journey to really put things in perspective, and it definitely helped. It's really stuck with me this entire way. But going back to the college piece, so you went to Lehigh, right?
I went to Lehigh, yes.
Which is in Connecticut?
It's in Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And you studied entrepreneurship?
I did economics and entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship was a new program there. It actually was kind of developed. I went to Lehigh. My older brother, my older sister went to Lehigh. My dad went to Lehigh. When he was there was no entrepreneurship program. So he has like come back with, he and his partner actually kind of developed the entrepreneurship program.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like when I was there, I was lucky to have basically like what he found as a shortcoming that was like kind of a place to nurture those who didn't want to go into traditional, business, go into like a traditional investment banking role or like go into whatever, like law, whatever. It was more of those of us who are kind of black sheep minds, which I always had found myself to be.
Yeah.
And so it gave me that avenue and I seized it and went, and I knew like from my first day in the entrepreneurship school there, that was like, this is what I want to do. Like we got a taste of like founders and startups and just people coming in and being cool and like being way more or less like high strung than the guys who come in with their suits and talking about investment banking. And I just hearing like the kind of people get excited and nerding out over specific topics and being whatever they were working on, like that guy, I was like, this is what I was like hooked right away.
Yes.
I knew that was it.
Speaking of your dad has definitely made his footprint in the fashion industry.
Yeah.
With a lot of blockchain fashion houses.
Yeah.
Is that a big part of why you wanted to pursue being an entrepreneur, or did you want to do it on your own account and make something separate to that?
Yeah, I think yes. I think he's definitely a notable Lehigh grad. And there's big shoes to fill, and I think that was kind of what it is. So when he was at Lehigh, there was no entrepreneurship program. So he and his partner and best friend were working on a class project that was kind of the most similar thing to an entrepreneurship class. And he kind of came up with this, they both came up with this concept of like a fast casual lifestyle brand. And that's kind of where Urban Outfitters and Free People and those types of brands started to come from. And so they started the first Urban Outfitters in Philly. And then obviously today it's more of the URBN brand that's an umbrella above Urban Outfitters, Free People, Anthropologie, Terrain, Beholden, and Newly.
Well, thank you, Wade's dad, for basically clothing me when I first came to New York, and Urban Outfitters was one of the brands that I could afford.
Filling our entire wardrobes.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, he and his partner, Dick Hayne, who are best friends, and like our families are basically one big family. They inspired me the most because this was before entrepreneurship was sexy and a thing. Like back then, now you're like an idiot for trying to do something like that. Like it was stupid. And then neither of them really came from a lot of means before, so they were trying to do this. And my dad also came to New York and got a job on Wall Street because he happened to be just smart and brilliant. And he was like, okay, I'll make some money here. And his partner, who's now the acting CEO of Urban, was stayed in Philly, and he would come back to Philly like every weekend, and they would do this whole thing, and they were just. But they didn't let it die. They didn't give it up. But like it was definitely, I think at that time, this was 1969, 1970, and it was definitely people were like, "You guys are fucking like stupid. Like this is a dumb idea. Who like starts a clothing company? And especially a rustic boho. Because back then it was Ralph Lauren, and it was like you want to dress up. You don't want to dress down. Dressing down is for homeless people. Like it wasn't what you wanted to do.
Does he advise you on some of those challenges, or now that he's kind of successful, does he kind of glorify the entrepreneurship journey, or is he kind of real with you and the obstacles you'll face? He's funny.
He's a big devil's advocate. Like he's just a big ball buster. Like so, if you are like, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to, this isn't working with this company, or I'm trying to make my way through this way. He'll just be like, yeah, it's fucking hard. Why don't you just quit? He's like,
I gotta love that. Though.
He's just like a no bullshit man.
He's just like fine. He's like, why don't you just quit it then? And it's like, all right, like I know it's almost like he's like prompting you to push back and be, no, I'm not going to quit. But it's like, sometimes you're like, should I? Like, is this advice, or are you
kind of a bad idea?
Are you hiring me?
Yeah. But I do think that is what got me here, because when I graduated school, I thought about, do I want to just move to Philadelphia, which is where Urban is based, work for them, be there, be part of this legacy. And I still think about it all the time. I still maybe at some point in the future will want to go jump onto the ship, because it is he and his partners, like who I also love, like as a father, like their name, their legacy. It's like, maybe the only company in the world like I have a personal care about. Every other company, just like to everyone, is just like a company, So it's very rare you have a company you care about, because it's like it's like nostalgic. It reminds me of him, like when I see but I think there was also a kind of this competitive ego part of me that I get from him, probably, that was like, okay, I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm going to get involved in all these projects. So then when I came to the city, I worked for a creative agency that worked with up and coming health and beverage brands, clothing brands, hotels, and it was just like creative, I was doing all the kind of bootstrapping, like the branding, marketing, social media, PR events, everything. It was just like everything you need. And I wanted to see what it was like to get my hands dirty in that world. And it's hard. I mean, that's like the most brutal thing ever. It's like start a new consumer company. But then I knew I wanted to go to the other side, which was I was fortunate enough to have the means to go onto the other side and be this angel investor and advisor for different brands. And I've been able to get involved with some cool brands and cool companies. But then I think the best thing about New York that I found for that is you can just be a serial networker. And I just kind of plop at the bar sometimes and end up talking to like 4 people. And then the next day I have all these like texts. I'm like, we should do, we should do a lunch with this guy and this guy. And
it's the great thing about New York.
It's the best.
You meet so many people.
A connector hub. Was your dad, one thing I've kind of learned as an Aussie coming to America and a lot of kids going and studying, how much sport is impacted with their studies. Was your dad someone who also wanted you to take part in playing sport, or was it something that you personally wanted to do?
Yeah. My dad's big into sports. He is huge into sports. I personally wasn't I would play, I did, but I was never really into it. And I still follow sports so casually now, but I'm just not, it's not my thing at all. But he was a big proponent of being athletic, being into sports. He's definitely a guy's guy, but he also is soft underneath it all. He is very emotional, big lover, but a real kind of the character from a movie of a guy's guy.
Yeah.
And he was big on that. My older brother was better at the sports role than I was. Because he's also very into it and he was naturally very athletic. My sister was more aligned with me, but but all of us did and loved it.
Yeah.
But that was never my passion. That was more of I did it because I felt like I was supposed to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of want to also tap into, which is, I guess, how you and I also bonded in a friendship was kind of diving into your dating life, both our dating lives.
Yeah.
But you went through quite a transition during school, right?
Yeah, I did. Through college, I guess we can preface with first that I've now obviously come out as gay, which was hard for me. And
when did you come out?
I would say 3.5 years ago, in the city at a party in Tribeca, brought each one of my friends into the bathroom individually and told them right there.
Did their reaction shock you, or did you feel support? Did you feel that they just were okay, we don't know how to navigate this?
Or did you feel like they already knew?
Both. It was a combination of everything. But there was nothing, the shock was more just relief. I think it's my childhood best friends who are basically my siblings who I love so much. And each time I went to the bathroom, it's so each time we went to the bathroom, it was
hey, you want to go to the bathroom? You want to go to the bathroom?
And it's so in the epitome of our relationship where everyone had to kind of throw a joke into it. Everyone's oh, they would make a little joke, oh, I know you're a little girly boy. I knew you always want to kiss me. It was joke. But so beyond supportive and so made it normalized within the split second. It was normalized right there. And then we walked
That's
out
great.
and then the next week they did you go on any dates this weekend? And then they were fully invested and so supportive, so organic and smooth. I was very lucky with that because I know people fear that that's not going to be the case, or it sometimes isn't the case. There are definitely times when I'm fortunate that I've never had an actual friendship end over my sexuality, but I know it happens. And I know that's the fear. And usually the fear is not, the fear is what stops you, and not even if you know deep down it's not going to be the reality. It's the fear.
Did you grow up knowing? So, when I was younger, my guy friend, who's the first one to come out to me, we were in the car on our way home, and he was like, "Hey, so I'm gay," and I was like, "Oh, cool. Have you always been gay?" And he was like, "Yeah, I was born gay, duh." And I was like, "Okay, awesome." And that was it. That was just. But then I also became good friends with a guy a couple years ago who was telling me his sexual, I guess, exploration. And he, at 28, started dating a guy. He never knew he was gay. He always dated women, but always felt like it was a little bit off, had this romantic relationship with a man. And he essentially had an epiphany being like, wow, I've never had this connection before. So he went down the bisexual path, came out to his parents as bisexual, but then started dating men more and was like, oh no, I'm totally gay. Like the connection that I have with men is completely different. And that's what was the missing piece. But he kind of went on a journey and is now openly gay.
Yeah.
But have you always known, what has your journey been like? I know it's different for everyone.
Yeah, my journey is, and not even to discredit your friend, because I think everyone's different. And I think if you even have a little bit of gay, bisexuality, whatever it may be, however you want to slice it, some people will say like I'm, 20% gay, 80% straight, and that could very well be the case. I think like you always know, you always know. I think it's more so, can you accept it? Like, I think when I was early on, middle school, high school, college, middle school, high school, I noticed like, I knew but that I was having little crushes on, this boy, that boy. We're in the locker room, I'm looking around. I'm kind of like, it's fun in here. Like, maybe I do like sports. And like, but
you had relationships with women.
I did. I dated.
You were like
I was
kind of a bit of a fuckboy.
I was a total fuckboy. I hooked up with a lot of girls, and that's the thing about people who are closeted and repressing all that is you hurt a lot of people and you break a lot of people and you just leave a wake of destruction. Like I would, in my head it was almost like this trophy system, this chase and like kill, because it's like the only thing that I thought would make my peers like applaud me or respect me and think I was cool. And if I would, and I was seeing everyone else kind of naturally be like, I'm going to hook up with these girls, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, I'm going to be, and like, if I saw a girl that somebody was interested in, I would pursue them so hard and I would pursue multiple, and I would, text every day constantly. And I would almost just want to get them to this point where they would say like, do you love me? And they'd be like, I love you. And then I was done. Cause it was just like,
I got the gratification.
I got the validation. It filled this gap in me. I was like, cool, the girl loves me. It's sick. But then like, if it goes past that, she's like, so do you want to go on a date? I'm like, there's no, like, I can't actually emotionally be intertwined with you. But and then it would go further where I'd be destructive. Like I had a really good friend and he was talking to a girl and he clearly liked her. And it was a weird thing for me where I saw that and I was like, in my head, I was like, I'm gonna try to steal that girl away from my best friend who was so loyal to me. I love so much. But it was like almost to prove something to myself. Like I can steal, I can get this girl to do it. And I would text her, blah, blah, blah. And he, called me one day and was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? And
it's like you're trying to validate yourself through.
Yeah. And because he's such a good friend, he knew me and he said, this was when we were in college. This was later. Like the high school was kind of more like the typical fuck, but college is when I started to shift a little. And I think some people had inklings, some people were close to me, but just because the behavior was so, like I was being so compulsive about chasing these and doing all this crazy, toxic, chaotic shit. And this one in particular, he called me and he was like, you have a good thing going right now. And he was like, and you're my best friend. And he was like, if there's something you want to tell me, like say it now.
Oh, interesting.
And I just went silent and was like, I don't, maybe I think there might be. And he was like, okay, let me know when. He's like, I love you. Like, let me know when there is.
What an amazing
and then we didn't really talk. But then I almost lost. Like I almost lost him, but we didn't talk until I was ready to be like, listen.
Because you were self-destructing.
And he was like, just stay away from me until you're ready to. Because like I was being destructive towards him. I was fucking with his life. He was trying to talk to a girl, and I'm interfering because I was being this like I was just trying to be a man. And what I thought.
What an emotionally mature friend.
Totally.
Oh, I know, he's the best.
What even? But. That is a very supportive friend. But what even is your mental health? I can't even imagine keeping a secret like that. Was there ever a thought process being like, hey, maybe I can go through life with people not knowing? Or did you get to a point where you're like, I have to say something, this is ruining me? What is your mental health like?
It's almost like when you're like grieving and you like barter. Like I was like bartering with myself where I was like, okay, you're just going to go through life with a girl. Like, you're going to figure this out. You're going to find a girl that you're able to have sex with and emotionally hang out with and blah, blah, blah. And don't get me wrong, I'm a sexual person. I love having sex with girls. I still to this day will, have 3 ways with guys and girls. There's the occasional girl, there's whatever, but my emotional connection was always men. And like I knew that. And I know that today. But I think early on I was like, okay, you're going to just marry women. And that's just what life's going to be like. Then I started to like kind of barter. I was like, you're going to marry women, but you can like cheat with guys. Like that's what I was thinking, that my head was strategizing it already, which is so kind of toxic. Like I'm like 19 years old thinking that, which is a weird thing to kind of plan for. You're like, I guess that's what I'm going to have to do. Because accepting it and embracing it wasn't even an option in my head.
Yeah.
And also I feel like when you're younger, like you're not exposed to, you're not in the city yet. So you're not surrounded by the culture of like openly gayness and whatnot. And that's, so it's not even something that was going through my head. It wasn't even a concept I was thinking of. It's like, am I gay or bisexual? You know, this is,
or you're like, is it just a phase?
yeah, it's which again is another thing. I also don't think that there's really phase. I think it's phases.
Yeah.
I think it's in you or it's not. And I think, but I think, people scapegoat and justify to avoid the truth and admitting it to them. It's always to themselves. Like it's, you can say you're scared of what other people will think and blah, blah, but it really, I think, comes down to like, you don't want to be this person to yourself.
What was the turning point? Sorry, Dallas. What was the turning point for you where you were like, no, I'm ready to come out, or now is the time to come out? And who were you most afraid to come out to?
Yeah. I think the turning point was I got to the city. I had all my friends were majority gay. Straight men and straight girls. And I'm going out with them and I'm doing the classic like city running around West Village with, the straight group. And then I had one girlfriend, not girlfriend.
Yep.
Girlfriend who lived in Brooklyn. She's bisexual, and I texted her one night, was like, what are you doing? And she was like, you should come out with me and my friends sometime. And I would start sneaking away to Brooklyn in the middle of my nights out, and I would go to these bars and these parties, and I was like, all right, this is such a waste of my life to like do this in secret. And like, I want to be in this openly and I want to be part of this. And I think then I was like, I need to just do this so I can live. Cause I feel like I was just living half my life.
Yeah.
And I was living just, when you repressing is it's unhealthy. Like I think when you repress something, anything, but especially something as like visceral and core to you as that, it's like, it's toxic inside of you. I think it just kills you from the inside out. Like I think that really just, I think I just wasn't happy at all in life, and I hated myself, and I resented myself for not only being this way, but not figuring out a way to do anything about it. And then, I was putting a lot of people through a lot of pain and hurt. I was hurting girls in the initial phase. And then as I started sneaking away to Brooklyn, I started going to these things. I'm talking to guys in the city, and, we'd hook up a few times, and they'd be like, hey, you want to get dinner? And I would lead them on, and I'd be like, no, actually I can't, because I don't want to be seen publicly with you. I don't want to do this. And, and then crushed them. And I lost, there's a few in particular that I'm like, we probably would have worked out. We got along really well, and I loved hanging out with them, and but I just like couldn't get myself there. And it's a choice. I mean, it's a choice. I think it's all a choice. Like, I think that was my choice. Like, people like to blame it on external factors, and sure, the things, your home dynamics, parents, your friends, like, can affect it, and you can be scared. You can have whatever fears, but it really comes down to you are just choosing to not embrace it.
Are you religious? Did you grow up religious? Did that have any influence on?
I grew up.
Anything?
My dad is very. He's very regimented with church. He goes to church. He's a Christian, but he doesn't impose at all. Like, it wasn't an imposition. Like, after there's a thing with when you get confirmed, it's your choice if you want to continue to go to church or not. I chose not to, just because I was like a lazy teenager. On Sunday I wanted to sleep in because I went to a party the night before. But he wasn't like, you need to go to church. It wasn't. Yeah. I was lucky that he's religious, and I always appreciate religion. I'm always envious of people who are able to find, like, because it's almost like a form of meditation, I think, like, to be religious and find peace in that and find this kind of coat of arms to follow.
Do you have your own relationship with religion, or you find that it's just not something for you? I
think amongst like life and heartbreak and all these things, that I've found myself being who I used to judge, which is the very spiritual person. And I've become very astrological and very like, I'm really like, I find myself, I used to be like, these people who are into, astrology signs and everything are so dumb. And then now I find myself during like a blood moon, I read online, so you have to go to your roof and write down all the things you want in life and crumple it up and throw it off your roof. And I'm doing it now. And I'm like, all right.
I love that. That's great.
I did that for something.
I buy into it. And I also I've been really big about manifestations. Like, I do a thanks before I eat in my head. I do a thank you for things, and I usually apologize for the fact that I complain about anything in life. The fact that I'm ever in a day like, oh, I wish this person would text me. I'm so pissed that there's nothing going on. Like, and it's just like, I'm like, who the fuck are you? Like, I come from a well-off family. I'm luckily like a personal person, like have a great social life, great friends, great everything. And like, I'm like, who are you to complain about anything? So I usually do that.
It's good to like give thanks.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm being greedy and I'm being ungrateful. And
It's really interesting. So I grew up, as we've mentioned before, my dad was a Christian pastor. I grew up in the church, was baptized. I had my own back and forth with religion and God and, being a teenager and becoming an adult, and I have my own relationship. But one thing I really am grateful for with my parents when it comes to religion and sexuality is that obviously we see in the media, we see on the streets, we see on social media so many people that claim to be Christian. And they are out there crucifying people for their sexuality. And the one thing I believe is that the Bible also says to love thy neighbor and those without sin cast the first stone. And I think what comes down is that the whole point of humanity is to be a community. And my parents always taught me, as much as they might have their beliefs on homosexuality, they love that person first and foremost. And one of my best friends back home in Australia, my roommate, was openly gay, and my parents treated him like their own son. And that to them, it's not about condemning someone because they might live a life that you don't agree with, but it's about loving and accepting that person for who they are.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart when you see so many Christians being a hypocrite and sort your own life out. Go clean up your own life. It's one of those things that I find myself getting in debate with a lot of people who want to be very boisterous on other people and the way they live their life, whether it be in a million different areas. And they're like, but I'm Christian and the Bible says this. Okay, you yourself are not a good Christian. And it's one of those things. I was grateful for religion. My parents were I was encouraged to find my own personal relationship with God, and that's what everyone in a sense should do. But I also kind of want to touch on a subject that you and I have talked a lot about, and I find this so fascinating. I want to touch a little bit on dating when you're openly out, dating people who are closeted. And I remember you telling me a story about this one guy you went on a date with, and his dad called to like check up on him. And you're both on FaceTime with the dad, and dad's like, yeah, you guys going to go out and get bitches tonight? And in your head, you're like, yeah, I'm getting your son tonight.
But I think, how do you, so obviously you were closeted, right? So is that easier to identify? And then also when you meet folks who aren't open, how do you connect in the first place?
Well, I think it just comes with the territory. Like every gay, bisexual man, whatever, can relate to a story where they are, I mean, they're closeted themselves at a point, but then you're open and you end up in some sort of relationship with somebody's closet, semi-closet, whatever. There's all these different ways to slice it. And now as I've grown out of the phase of being in the closet and being like, self-loathing myself and doing all these toxic things, leaving, hurting, breaking people on my way here. And I'm on the other side of it where I'm on the receiving end, and I find myself and it comes to the territory even more when you're somebody who leans a little more masculine, which I do. My type is like people like me who are a little more masculine. I have friends who are super flamboyant and feminine who I love. It's just not my type. Your type's your type. Like and that's not to say that that's definitive, but it comes. So with that territory comes people who aren't maybe like fully out or open. And I've had a ton of experience getting into relationships with guys who aren't fully open, whether they're gay, bi, whatever. And then I've had a few that have really had a huge impact on my life. And I think it's strange because I think there's a lot of these feelings are similar to people, whether you're in like a straight relationship, whatever, who are in these kind of experiences with unrequited love. But there's one key difference where it's you get in this relationship and if you have these strong feelings for somebody and you care about them and maybe you love them and you have love for them, and the reason that you can't be together isn't something that's fundamental. It's not, there's no chemistry, there's no attraction, you fight a lot, you don't enjoy spending time together. It's usually actually like quite the opposite. Like usually the reason you can't be together is because of their fears, their insecurities, their ego a lot of the time.
So sad.
It is. And it prevents them from even trying. Because it's one thing if you tried and you gave it your all and then it didn't work out. And then there's your answer. Like, this isn't my person, blah, blah, but when they won't eat all this, that stuff, the insecurity, the fear, the ego prevents them from even leaping with you. So then you're just kind of you're in, but you have these feelings, but it's almost always reciprocated. People say like, but people don't feel things one way usually. And when somebody has feelings for you. And so then you're with the struggle with, they don't want to lose you because they also feel this bond, but they also can't embrace you or your love. So then they place you in this limbo and you're stuck in this limbo. And I think that limbo is like the most heart-wrenching thing that a person can go through.
Most of those situations, you've essentially been that person's first, or is that quite common that they do fall in love with men even though they might not be out or even in relationships?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, things rarely happen in a vacuum. I've been with people who are closeted and figuring it out, and they say I'm their first, and I hear other ones. Yeah, and then there's things that kind of point the other direction. Sometimes I am, and I think that I also am a person that a lot of people who are closeted, gay or bi or whatever, come to or open up to, because I'm kind of that middle ground where most people know I had this background of being like the boy's boy, and I am a boy's boy at heart. That is what I am. That's my personality. Like, people sometimes accuse me, like in the gay community, some people accuse me of being like a self-loathing gay, being like, you won't embrace it, blah, blah, but it's like, no, it's just like my personality. Like, I can't change it just to kind of act, to make it seem like I embrace it more. I do. I'm really talking about it with a microphone in my face now. Yeah. Like, it's like, I'm not ashamed. It's just more, this is just who I am. And so I think people find comfort in that. People who are struggling, people who are maybe more masculine, who have, there's plenty of guys that I've been with who have girlfriends at the time who are just like, can't get there, and they can, again, but I think it's a choice. And I think that's when you get into these situations where you get put in limbo, and it's like it's the most agonizing thing ever.
From our conversations that we've sat down together and had many times, I watched you obviously go through something with someone where he is definitely closeted, and you are not only just great friends, but people who have such a great connection. But I think one thing I find really interesting from your story of when you weren't out yet and you were dating women, and how you look back and reflect on your actions towards those people. You were also identifying through him with dating women in his life while at the same time as you, and how he had to, in a sense, reflect. And same thing was, the women became a trophy, and then as soon as I got them, and I think obviously there might be some women listening to this and thinking, well, the guy I'm dating is treating me terribly.
There's so many
is he
guys
closeted? And we're not saying that.
No.
But is there anything that you do look back on and reflect, or have you've seen this person and the difference between your personal journey with that, but then also being on the other end of it?
Yeah. I think, and I agree, I think it's not definitive that it's, I think with all these guys, which is, I don't want to put a number to it, but there's countless instances of this with guys who are closeted, gay, bisexual, whatever, slice it, maybe they're mostly straight, a little bi, and there are obviously common themes. And I, always when I'm talking to them, like we usually get into it, I'm a pretty personal person. I like to kind of dive in and help. And I think there's also usually an issue with these types of relationships where one person has the savior complex, which I think I have, where I treat these guys kind of like wounded doves and trying to help. But unfortunately, people can only change on their own end, and they can only change if they have to. But I think that, there's I usually try to impose like my wisdom of my past experiences and be like, listen, like I get it. Like this sucks. Like you're hooking up with all these girls, and these are common things. Like every guy that I've been with who's with a girl, been with girls, is not out regardless. They all are like, the commentary, they usually end up being like the kind of womanizer guy who's out, like trying to hook up with every girl, but whether it's to impress their guy friends, whether it's to make themselves feel like this is what I know a man's supposed to be, fill the void, just get some love, be fawned over, be worshipped. I get it. I love flirting with that. I love when girls flirt with me. I love flirting. I love whatever. But I usually try to be like, listen, like maybe you're not gay, maybe you're bisexual, maybe you're just a little this, maybe that, but you're not straight. Like, you know, because straight men don't fuck other men and they don't have feelings for other men. And that's just not a thing. Like it's just that it's just not like you're not straight. And so I usually try to help with that, but sometimes those conversations end in frustration and resentment. And hey, so that's when you have to realize you have to take a step back and be like, this, you know, someone who's at war with themselves can't give you peace.
What's the craziest situation that you've been in of someone who you didn't even realize was open to it and then maybe slid into your DMs or just completely took you by surprise?
Yeah, do you have a lot of straight guys in your DMs?
Yeah.
Well, they're not straight, but you know, that's always my always my key takeaways. People are like, you know, are you turning these straight? It's like no one's turning anyone. Like someone who's truly straight and secure can't be turned. You know, like my like it's if people who are, you know, hiding certain parts or like inhibitions about themselves. But yeah, I've had like a ton of guys who.
Well, doesn't Diplo say if your eyes are shut, it doesn't count?
Yeah, see, there's things like that, but it's like you know, you still know. But yeah, I think just as it's progressed, there's definitely like in the recent history, like just more guys who hear these things like through the grapevine and whatnot, and then will be out or something and will kind of come up to me and maybe I know they just broke up with their girlfriend or something and we weren't really close, you know, at all, and then now suddenly they want to be my buddy, and then it's like, hey, like we should go to we go to your, you know, it's like 4 a.m. We should go to your apartment, like have a drink. And it's like, oh yeah, cool. And then, you know, then 5 a.m. hits and it's like, they're like, we should have another drink. It's like, all right, if you want to do this, let's do this.
I want to get your opinion, and we've touched on these topics before, but I find it so fascinating, the differences in answers I get from a lot of people. One being that we have had the discussion that there is more straight men in straight relationships who are hooking up with men on the side, and that these are men, you would say majority of society or their girlfriends or their friends would never imagine in a million years is doing that. And the other one is, this has been a discussion online as well and amongst many people, that men who have intense access to so many different women, so sports players, actors, people like this that have so many women accessible to them and saying yes to everything and doing everything, that they create a larger and larger appetite for being sexually adventurous, and that can then sometimes adventure into doing something with a man. Is that what you still, from your opinion, look at and go, well, that was always there? Or do you actually see a space and a kind of lifestyle where somebody can be pushed to the excess of, well, everything else is becoming numb to me and I need more and I want to experience more? Because a lot of, I think, people who have such easy access, they start to crave what is forbidden.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's, I mean, and I'm not the know-all. So, you know, I'm sure there are instances where that is true. Like, I think, you know, in that specific scenario, if it's like, you know, this A-list actor who's been famous since he was 15 and now he's still an A-list actor, it's like, I'm sure, yeah, he's probably like had sex with, you know, as many, and now he might branch out. But I do think, I don't know if you, I mean, I think in that regard, it might just be someone who's more like sexually like fluid. And, cause I just think that people who are like, you know, truly straight, truly heterosexual, truly just like, you know, I'm attracted to women and women only, like no matter how bored they get, still aren't like, I want to suck a dick. I think part of you has to have had that already in the, you know, in your psychological makeup. But again, like that, I think in those specific scenarios, who knows? Maybe you do get so bored, and like you're, and you know, they almost treat sex like, you know, the way they can, you know, someone who's addicted to hard drugs treats drug, you know, and then gateways to wherever.
Even to take it one step further, we were having a discussion the other week around how the patriarchy creates different views for men and women, right? So if a woman was to hook up with another female, then they're just curious and having fun.
Yeah.
But if a guy hooks up with a guy, then they're gay, and there's no coming back from that.
Yeah.
But the argument is it true for both, or are they both curious, or is it because hooking up with a girl or you know, having a fascination with the female body is very different to putting your penis inside of someone or having your having a penis inside of you.
Yeah.
There's like different arguments around it.
I think some women also do it to satisfy men.
I agree.
So some women do it not because they're actually into the woman, but they're doing it to turn on the man.
And it's also fashionable now for women to be bisexual. Like I think women find it very cool to be like, yeah, you know, I go with women, and maybe they do enjoy it, and that's obviously there's bisexual women. That's like you know, we know that. But I think that it also happens to be in vogue right now. So I think you're almost like encouraged to have that as like add that to your brand and be like, and maybe you do like it. Maybe you are. I think there's a difference between like being able to do it happily and like really want it, you know, and like emotionally create and like sexually create. I think like you know, there's a different like I'm sure like a woman is like I can hook up with this girl, but like are you really you have to be viscerally in it is different. And with men, full opposite, you know, full other side of the kind of the spectrum where you're like it's
for you and it's not for someone else in a sense. It's for you, and
it's also not in vogue. It's you are in your head. Like I still struggle with this now. You feel like a little bit less of a man. And I still struggle with this today, where I sometimes am like with you know all my guys and there's camaraderie and they're talking about like girls and blah blah blah. And I just like don't want to be the odd man out, so I'll just be like you know I either withhold something I was going to say or I just could participate. I don't know, and you feel a little left out. You feel kind of a mutant in a way. And I think with men, you feel that's why it's so hard to come out. I think that's.
Is there any advice for I guess guys in your position who are looking to come out?
Yeah.
Is there any advice that you can potentially give them as if they are closeted?
Yeah, I mean it's hard. I think everyone's kind of in their own battle when it comes to this. Like there's always different factors. There's you know because some people do have extreme family cases or something. You know, parents who will disown them like that. That could be. So and I was fortunate not to have that, so I can't speak to that. But I think just in general, I think the takeaway is just that it really isn't as ill-received as you think it's going to be, and you don't as long as you just like if you really are who you are, like you're not going to be perceived as less of a man. Like my friends still look at me as a man, and like I'm probably one of the more masculine guys of the group, you know, just in general. And it's just I think if you're not even going to do it for yourself, just do it. I mean, the feeling of getting that weight off your shoulder and being able to just openly live how you want to live and do what you want to do and have your friends, you know, who you didn't expect or you did expect deep down, and maybe you were fearful they wouldn't like embrace it and encourage you is like the most. The day I said that, I felt like my life just started. You know, like I exhaled just decades of shit, and like I don't know. I think as long as people, that would be my advice is that is the best feeling ever. And it's hard and you're going to feel weird and you're going to resent yourself and you resent the people. Like I resent all the guys I had feelings for when I was in the closet. I hated them because I resented them. They brought out this part of me. And then now guys resent me sometimes because I bring out the part of them they didn't want to come to the surface. I don't know, just getting out all that resentment and hate and anger and repression and all just moving that aside and just kind of being able to be free and lead with love it's the best, it's the most liberating thing in the world.
And lastly, to kind of wrap it up as well, on the other side of things, what is your advice for friends and family to be supportive of when their loved one comes out? Because I also know a lot of straight men at the time don't know how to quite act, because there is a lot of men who aren't exposed to having a gay friend and they think, oh, if I like joke around with him, he thinks hitting on him, or maybe 100%. He thinks I'm gay. Yeah. What is your advice that they can do to best be there for that person?
The best thing you can do especially with, which I was, and for guys who are, you know, are kind of masculine, dating girls, whatever, in the closet and just having a really hard time. Most of their friends are straight. For those friends, the best thing you can do is treat them exactly the same and almost add an extra. Like my friends now make jokes around me being gay, which has made it bad because my fear was that like people were going to start tiptoeing around me and walking on eggshells. And my friends, our whole chemistry is that we all are constantly joking. We're constantly ripping on each other and making fun of each other. And then now, so like, we'll be in a group chat and someone will send something big. Wait, I bet you want to suck this guy's dick, huh? And it's like, and I love, because if that wasn't the case, I'd be so upset. If they didn't feel that they could make that joke, I'd be like, we're just it. And
you want to be treated the same.
I want to be treated the same. And my friends now come up to me, and and these are the most secure straight men, because they come up to you, they'll grab my ass, or kiss me on the cheek, and they'll be like, "Hi, baby." Like, who'd you hook up with? You've been training your ass this weekend, and like, I'm like, these are confident, secure straight men, and they are the supportive friends, and that's what it is. Like, you just gotta don't change anything.
Yeah.
And it's just like, be the friend still, be the boy, let them be your guy. And also like community, if you do have things you want to like get off your chest, like don't let things kind of sit in silence in those situations. That's when things get awkward and weird. Like speak up. Like if you're going to be like, okay, my friend just came out, this is kind of weird. Like we used to chase girls together. Like say that. And then,
but just look on the bright side, more girls for you.
I know, having a gay best is I get my friends laid constantly, and sometimes I'm almost like exhausted.
You're like the bridge that brings them and the girls together.
My friends will now be sitting on the couch, like somewhere like cool, I got some cocktail bar, cross-legged, and they'll be like, "Wait, go do that gay thing where you walk around, like go find some girls, like bring them back here." And I'm like, all right, and like kind of pull up my pants and like walk around. I soldier around. I'm like, "Hi guys, my name is Wade." I think I have to almost like preface it. I'm like, I'm gay, by the way, because like some of them, if I hide my jewelry, they think I'm straight.
Which, by the way, is very disarming for girls. Like girls love when a guy can come over and be like, "I'm gay," because you feel immediately safe, and you are that connector.
I have to do it because I also can be perceived as like some guy who's trying to fuck these girls. Like so like sometimes I go to these girls, I'm like, "Hey," and they're like, "Oh, here we go, horny guy," and then I have to be like, "No, I'm by the way, I don't want to have sex with you," but my friends do, and you should come meet them, and they're fun, and then they're like, "Oh, this is fun."
We really do appreciate you coming on. Honestly, super inspiring. And I know that you've helped a lot of people through this conversation today. I also had a lot of questions around entrepreneurship and career and all that. But I feel like this discussion was really important. And I'm so glad that we touched on a lot of these topics and questions and that you answered them so transparently and honestly. And it really does mean a lot that you're willing to come here and be so vulnerable. And we're so happy for you.
As a friend, I'm so proud of you and your journey and your openness and your vulnerability. And I think you have such a powerful message and you lead an example. And hopefully this does help somebody who's maybe going through something or maybe a friend of someone who doesn't quite know how to navigate everything. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Wade.
Thank you, guys.
I feel like you just breathed for the first time.
It was so fast.
Thank
we
you.
were like trying to get
It's just kind of like this is like coming out kind of.
Coming out of the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Wade.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.